Having an abusive father meant Jane was thrust into foster care at an early age. She was endlessly thrown between group homes and schools, never given the chance to flourish in a stable home. Turning 16 finally gave Jane the freedom to escape her volatile childhood. She began working as an assistant at a local university, where she was making friends and earning money. A few years into this fresh start, Jane started dating a builder she'd met on her lunch break. This man was just over 20 years older than her, but that didn't really matter. He was strong, confident and assertive, and showered her with gifts and compliments. Jane had never felt so special, and before long she was pregnant. Over the coming months, this man became cold, uncaring and ruthless. He had switched from being lovingly kind to heartlessly cruel. "Your cooking is rancid. You are the most stupid person I have ever met. A blind man could see that your friends don't actually care about you." Everyone else was inferior to him as well. Only by singing his praises was she able to calm his hate. This egotistical monster wasn't the knight in shining armour she had fallen in love with. Everyone enjoys being admired from time to time. When others validate our qualities and achievements, our self-esteem is boosted. It's a personality trait known as narcissism, with most people lying somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. Here, it's associated with healthy characteristics, such as confidence, resilience, and ambition. Who wouldn't enjoy being praised for receiving a high score on an exam, or revered for winning a sports competition? However, about 1% of the world's population have such high levels of narcissism, it becomes diagnosable as a mental illness, narcissistic personality disorder. And unfortunately for Jane, the man that has just entered into her life has this disorder. Narcissists have extremely low levels of self-esteem, which they attempt to mask by acting with an inflated sense of superiority. They desperately try to convince others that this facade is who they truly are. When others praise and compliment this false self, or when they are able to publicly degrade and humiliate others without being challenged, they get the thing they need most, narcissistic supply, which is needed to maintain their incredibly low levels of self-esteem. Unfortunately, it's constantly leaking, meaning in almost no time at all they're on the hunt for more fuel. Valuable targets for narcissistic supply include those who lack confidence, the empathic, and those that struggle to set firm boundaries. Narcissists believe that if they can develop a relationship with you, they'll be able to hold most of the power. It may feel normal, but under the surface they'll use subtle tactics to further widen the power imbalance. They'll emotionally abuse you and claim that they are just joking around, treat you as if you are just a mere object, and manipulate you, such as by saying something incredibly hurtful or threatening, and then later claiming that they never said it. They are trying to gaslight you into doubting your own sanity. Once they feel comfortably in control of the relationship, they will start displaying grandiosity, the key to bringing their fake superiority to life. Grandeur is the creative force that gives us the potential to do great things. Its power can be shown in Mozart's symphonies and Michelangelo's artworks. But when you put your grandeur in contrast with someone else's, grandeur becomes grandiosity. It's where you want to be bigger and better than others. A large power advantage over their target allows them to be freely grandiose. They'll boast about their qualities and achievements, prompting their targets to praise them as well. They'll trash talk others, knowing that their derogatory statements won't be challenged. Either way, they get their narcissistic supply. Every human that's ever lived has been a bit grandiose from time to time. The problem arises with extreme grandiosity. Back in our hunter-gatherer days, this would not have been tolerated, as taking more than your fair share of power forces others to take less, making them feel inferior. This would have been a dangerous situation for the grandiose individual, as this behaviour would have put them at risk of being kicked out of the group. meaning certain death. Instead, it would have been in everyone's best interest for the group to remain stable. So, to keep an individual's grandiosity in check, the rest of the group would have used an opposing force: shame. Being shamed feels unpleasant, but it gets the grandiose individual to reflect on their behaviour, giving them the opportunity to change it. Unfortunately, shame has no effect on a narcissist. Imagine everyone is born with a chip inside their head that allows them to feel shame and guilt. A narcissist didn't get this chip. They would have been exiled back in our caveman days to lift the group's feelings of inferiority. Nowadays, we still have the ability to deal with someone who's being too grandiose. Calm down, mate. You're getting a little bit too big for your boots. The issue in modern times is when we are forced to deal with a narcissist, shame cannot be used to correct their behaviour, and due to no longer living in large communal groups, enough people cannot bind together to exile the narcissist, meaning their feelings of inferiority can't be relieved. They live their lives consumed by toxic shame, existing just to serve others. From the outside, Jane's family looked ordinary, but inside it was completely dysfunctional. Up until 10 years old, her son Martin had always strived to have a close relationship with his father, but was always rejected. As the years went on, hearing his dad pull into the driveway would cause feelings of dread to overwhelm him. He'd pluck up the courage to say hi to his father when he went downstairs for dinner. He would just receive a grunt. The only time his dad bothered to speak to him was when he complained about his mother, or wanted to mock him. "What have you done with your hair? Is playing video games the only thing you do? Don't you have any friends?" Martin once found the courage to stand up to him. His father responded by threatening to break his neck if he ever did it again. Martin had been bullied into living an existence of toxic shame and inferiority. He spoke like a mouse to avoid drawing too much attention to himself, and was always walking on eggshells around others to avoid confrontation. There was one place he could escape all of this chaos: his own fantasy world. Here he was, the guy at school who all the girls chased, a courageous hero who rid the streets of criminals, and most importantly, be who his father never allowed him to be. Martin knew he had to escape the shackles of his father. He studied hard to get into a university on the other side of the country. This was his chance for a fresh start. He tried new hobbies, but could never make it past the first session. He felt like he was being judged and shamed by those around him. People still walked all over him, yet he couldn't help but try to please them. Despite being away from his father, his pain still persisted. Late one night, he tried Googling his symptoms. His research suggested that he may have been emotionally abused and neglected, something he'd never even considered. Martin booked an appointment with a psychiatrist that specialised in working with adult patients who'd suffered from childhood abuse. He met the criteria for complex PTSD and was referred to a psychologist who specialised in trauma recovery. She illuminated for Martin the pathological traits his father had and how he met the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. It is almost impossible to treat a narcissist, so a difficult yet necessary step Martin had to take was completely severing contact with his father. Over the next few years, Martin was able to gradually process his emotional trauma and start to heal from it. A sense of self and individuality started to come alive in Martin. He learned to establish firm boundaries with others, and his emotions came to life. The world finally started to have colour. He could now see the effects his father had on his mother and was now determined to free her from his shackles as well. We'd like to give special thanks to all of our patrons. You are supporting us on our mission to educate the world on mental health.